Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Coconut Wireless. It is Thursday, May 8th, and we got a show for you tonight. So let's. All right, let's get started. Charles, are you excited tonight, Charles? Charles, wake up, Charles.
I am very excited. I am very excited. Okay. Uh-oh. Do-
What?
Is there or is our screen frozen?
Is it frozen? No, man, let's go. Guys, we got Lieutenant
No.
Governor Sylvia Luke tonight with us. I am like so stoked and excited. It's been a while since we had a celebrity on the show. Yep. It's been a while.
I don't know
Yep.
about celebrity.
No, I think you qualify as a celebrity. My gosh, you're the lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii, and we know how busy you are. So we are just thankful and blessed to have you on tonight to just talk story and have some fun, I guess. How was your day today?
Yeah.
How was your day?
Well, let me see. Today, it wasn't too bad. I was running in and out of meetings, and a lot of times we're a little bit overtime meeting, and I forgot the next meeting was supposed to be at the University of Hawaii and not at my office, so we had to rush over. So all day it's like rushing from one place to another. But
Well,
that's basically what your day is like, Charlie, all day.
yeah, I think we have similar schedules. You're, of course, probably a lot more busy, but yeah, it's so many appointments, so many meetings, and thank God we get good staff that can get us in. By the way, Shari, is that your staff member? Shari that was helped us coordinate
Yeah,
tonight. Yeah,
Sherry's my
she's awesome. She's
yeah,
awesome. So,
she's terrific.
I think the first thing was I know Charles has got some questions, but I want the people to get to know who Sylvia Luke is. I told Sherry I would share this story right up front because the first time I got to meet Lieutenant Governor, she was at the state legislature. She was the finance chair. She was in charge of all the money, and I don't know if you remember this, Lieutenant Governor, but Bernard Cavallo and I went to go beg. He was the mayor, I was the chair, and went to go beg for money. And you were like mean and strict, and actually made us beg. And you probably, I don't know if you remember that, but I will never forget that. So, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was afraid of you. I was afraid of you. I was really, really afraid of you. But fast
Wow,
forward many
that's
years,
kind of a
and
big deal. Yeah.
yeah. So when I remember when you were running for lieutenant governor, people would ask. I said, all I know is as far as transparency, accountability, she she's the one because you made sure you accounted for every single penny that left the capital. But your life didn't even begin here in America, right? Your life didn't even begin here in America.
Yeah, yeah. So I was born in South Korea, came here when I was 9 years old, and uh, it was tough because my parents wanted a new opportunity and an opportunity to basically live the American dream here, and it's just growing up not learning, not understanding English, but I had terrific teachers who just helped me through this whole thing. So I mean, coming from um, kind of the way we were to what I am now. I just continue to be really humbled for the opportunity that I was given.
And you spent 24 years in the legislature. Prior to the legislature, what was your life? I think, aren't you like an attorney or something? Aren't you like an attorney? But
I am.
what was your life
So,
before politics?
so prior to before becoming uh, in politics, I was a practicing lawyer. But I think when you take a look at my backstory, it's not. Uh, atypical. It's not unusual compared to many of the other immigrant stories here. You have immigrant families, and you have basically individuals who are uh, just struggling to live in the state of Hawaii. So I'm very sympathetic to a lot of folks who continue to struggle to live in Hawaii because of some of my upbringing. My mom, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, and I was just maybe 15 years old, and my dad had a major stroke. So for about 2 years, he was paralyzed on the left side, and that was really hard on my family because my mom all of a sudden became the sole breadwinner of the family, and I was one of three kids, and I was the oldest of the three kids. So basically, I became converted into a second parent to take care of my two younger siblings. And my dad passed away when I was a junior. And so basically, he passed away when he was only 48 years old. And, now I'm 57, and I can't even imagine, um, your life ending when you're just 48. So just having gone through my mom, seeing my mom struggle, and having her raise three young kids, it gave different kind of perspective. But I think that's kind of not a unusual story. Around the state, you see so many single family, you see single parents who just kind of struggle to live and make a living in the state of Hawaii.
Yeah, I think struggling now is kind of the normal thing, yeah, here in Hawaii, and unfortunately, and it is just the way it is. So, Charlie, I wanted to ask one more question because this is the burning politician question. You were in the legislature for 24 years. You spent 24 years of your life, and a large part of that in leadership. And now you're on the administrative side, the executive branch. You're in the governor's office now. You're the lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii. How was that transition, and what is the biggest difference from being the legislator, basically what I'm quite familiar with, where you just do budgets and pass laws and stuff, going from that career over now to the executive branch, where now you're pretty much in charge of administering or executing all that the legislature is providing funding for. What's how was that transition?
Yeah, a lot of it, as you know too, Mel, a lot of our how we do things is really based on our personal experiences, our broad experiences, and our relationship. And, even on Kauai, even statewide, and throughout the world too. I mean, there's so many situations where you end up knowing somebody and you understand and empathize. For me, because I had a lot of experience in the legislature and a lot of relationship through the years, transitioning to the executive branch, because even if it's different roles, I continue to foster those relationships and rely on a lot of my knowledge and relationship from the past 24 years in the legislature. The executive branch and the legislative branch are somewhat different. The legislature is really intense from January to May, or end of April, and then going into May. In the executive branch, it's pretty much throughout the entire year. I think I'm having some broadband issues here.
Yeah, what's up? What kind of internet connection you guys get over there at the state capitol? Are you at the capitol, by the
I
way?
know. I am at the Capitol, and don't you think it's kind of embarrassing that I'm heading up the broadband effort and my broadband is pretty bad?
I,
Yeah,
I
so
cheated.
ironic and so
I
funny.
cheated
Yeah.
today, and I shared this with the lieutenant governor before we went live, and I said, I ran her bio on ChatGPT, and I didn't give it any clues. I didn't give it any clues, and it came up with your key initiatives, which I really want to talk about, the Ready Cake initiative. Lieutenant Governor, when I think of Sylvia Luke, I think about and I've seen this in action so many times. You're just an amazing person when it comes to early learning and your Ready Cake initiative. So that they came out with that, and then the second was broadband expansion. So we can start at the Capitol and bring some good broadband to the Capitol, and
I
then
know.
disaster
You think
response.
broadband is a rural issue? Yeah, you think broadband is a rural issue, but on the fifth floor of the state capitol, we're having spotty broadband, and I'm sure your broadband is okay. It's my broadband making it all fuzzy and weird right now.
No, yeah, I mean, I have Hawaiian Telecom. I have fiber, whatever they call it. But yeah, since we converted to, we don't have any problems with the stream. But no, you're coming in fine. Your audio is perfect. So that's and you're
Is my
actually,
face frozen right now?
no, you're not frozen.
Yeah,
You're not
just tell me
frozen.
if my face.
You're,
Okay.
you know, when your stream goes frozen, you just want to make sure it's in a good position, and not a weird looking
Yeah,
position.
yeah,
But
yeah. I better like smile the whole time instead of.
yeah, why don't we jump? Oh, what happened? Are you there? Okay.
Oh, why?
No, that was me. That was
Yeah,
me.
hi,
My
Nick.
fat finger syndrome.
Okay.
Let's start with the Ready Keiki initiative, because again, we were at the library, the Kapal Library anniversary birthday, and you came to that, and that just says a lot about you and your care and your initiative that you want to help the kids. The libraries is obviously an amazing place. So you want to talk a little bit about that, and why is that your top initiative?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you guys a story. I was in high school well, I was in college in 1980, late 80s, and I remember the superintendent at that point in time. I don't remember if it was Charlie Taguchi or somebody else, but I remember this big announcement, and I don't remember why I continue to remember this. But in 1989, the superintendent and the legislature announced that by year 2000, we're going to provide access to all preschool age children by year 2000. So 89, they had this vision that, hey, all these kids, we're going to ensure that all of them have access by year 2000. And I always say year 2000 came and went long, long time ago. And so one of the things after I became lieutenant governor, I decided to do was I decided to start this Ready Keiki initiative. And Mel, it looks like I'm frozen. Can
No,
you still hear me?
yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Maybe I'm frozen on my because broadband is just so bad on the fifth floor.
No, I'm actually watching the stream on my phone, and you're not frozen, so it's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. So, when I decided to, when I came into this office as lieutenant governor, one of the things that I think people really don't like about government is they pass all these rules and they pass all these laws, and then it never comes to fruition. And I'm sure being a very seasoned elected official and then also working in the private sector, it really annoys you too. And the fact that we pass all these mandates and it never get done, that's one of my pet peeves. So as lieutenant governor, I started this Ready Keiki initiative, and it's to ensure that all 3 and 4 year olds have access to preschool education, and then we set an aggressive goal in the next 10 years. So after starting the Ready Kiki initiative, one of the things that happened, well, before I left the legislature, I set aside $200 million to build as many preschools as we can. Of course, one of the things that Senate President Ron Kochi always tells me is that he didn't think it was going to be done. And he was kind of skeptical that, anybody would be able to build that many preschools. And so he always talks about how, he was very impressed that we were able to get it done. So in the first year after I took office, out of the $200 million, we were allotted $5.5 million. And what I told the team was that we are going to extract as many preschools as we can out of the $5.5 million as possible. And we were able to build not like 2 years from now or 5 years from now, within from January to August of that first year, we were able to build out 11 preschools. And for me, that was really rewarding, only because everything that you know about state government is everything takes 5 times too long or 5 times more expensive, and we were able to do it in such a short amount of time. So that was 11 in the first year. In the second year, it was 44, and one of the 11 was Kilauea. And so we were very proud about that, because Kilauea was a Head Start classroom that was almost going to close. And we said, well, we don't want to close that classroom. We want to make sure that the community continued to get preschool access. So that one we quickly converted in 2023, and that became one of the Ready Keiki classroom.
Yeah, you see, I wasn't the only one scared of you. When you said you wanted X amount of classrooms built, they went over that. That's the power you have, Lieutenant Governor. That's the power you have.
No, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And then the exciting thing is that I think a lot of people, they don't really know how many opportunities there are. So there were preschool classrooms at Kekaha and Ele that never really filled up. So those two classrooms, um, they had about 20 seats per classroom, one at Kekaha and one at Ele, and those never filled up. And the general consensus was that, hey, maybe people in these areas didn't want to send their kids to preschool, and we're like, no, that's not it. We're not doing a good enough job doing outreach. And because we were able to message out that we're opening free preschools throughout, Ele is full, Kekaha is full. In fact, let me take a look. I think Kekaha, Kauai, LA for 20 classrooms, 23 people applied. So we need to make sure that everybody who applied can get a seat. And then at Kekaha, for just 16 seats, 39 people applied. And I think both Mel and Charlie, I think this is like, it's amazing. And I'm glad that people are interested. But at the same time, it's kind of sad, because if we do our job and we get the message out that these things are available to them, people will take advantage. And the fact that 39 parents wanted their kids to be a part of the Kekaha Elementary Preschool, and we only have 16 seats, that motivates me even more to open more classrooms in these areas.
Yeah, the kids, I mean, and again, that's your passion. You come to Kauai quite often. You're quite familiar with the individual schools that you just showed, so we really appreciate that. I know Charlie had a school question, but overall, if you look
Yeah.
at the schooling, teachers, there's always a concern about teacher shortages, and I know there's this. I talk at schools frequently, and they always tell me, Mel, you should go be a substitute teacher. We have a shortage of teachers. We have a shortage of substitute teachers. Is that becoming an issue in the state?
Absolutely. And in fact, every year we're looking at close to about 1,000 teacher positions that were short, and we're currently working with the university system, including all the community colleges, about how to make the teaching pathway easier. Before we get to the next question, I'm gonna brag a little bit about Kauai, but I'm gonna brag a lot. So every year uh, there is, and I tell this not just to Kauai folks, I tell it statewide, because I want them to be like, oh my gosh, okay, we gotta be like Kauai. So every year, statewide, there is a kindergarten assessment. The sad thing is only 29% of our kids are kindergarten ready. And when they do an assessment, they take a look at literacy, math, social development, and physical development. And only 29% of our kids are ready. There's only one school district, and because I already gave out the hint, Guess what school district surpasses the state average? It is Kauai. And I'm gonna figure out Kauai, all the school districts are, in fact, the Waimea School District, Waimea School Complex is like above average. I mean, they're all doing so well and nothing is below average. So I was really impressed with Kauai. And Kauai, even if we want kindergarteners to be ready, I mean, Waimea was coming in close to 40% ready. That's amazing. But that really tells you about the quality of the educators you have on Kauai. I mean, this is something that all the other schools should take a look at and what they can mirror and they can learn from.
I think that has something to do with the fact that Charlie lives in Waimea. I think
Yeah,
because
must be. He must go visit. He must go visit them and then,
No, no. Well,
uh, I just had a
Lieutenant
question,
Governor,
uh, Charlie. I think that's the
go ahead.
no. I just put up the comment.
So I guess the question is, and I think we have to preface, and I understand the state level that you govern, that you're governing at. But Lieutenant Governor, we have so much. I want to say we have a lot of problems now with the present government administration, and I say that only because
Mhm.
there seems to be a disconnect that everything that happens, we see that there's a lot of things happening in the courts. Everything that the administration does, it gets overturned. I mean, it's constant, and so then it starts to kind of reinforce this thought process that what's real and what's not real. So we really don't know
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis if we're confronted with something, if it's real or not. So I guess the question came. I've been speaking with some of the educators from the island of Maui, and as you know, we had a recent raid by ICE that involved the
Yeah.
the teachers that are on the J1 visa program, right from the U.S. Department, I
Right.
mean the State Department, to help augment the shortage of teachers in the state. I know we have some of them here on Kauai. A good friend of mine and my wife, Randy Francisco, always helps take them around. And so, up until this point, we found no problems. But then all of a sudden, Maui gets this part of the president's initiative is to weed out the hardened criminals who are undocumented or illegal. And somehow these teachers, they get vetted, probably one of the most strictest programs you can, just to come over here and work. And they themselves get caught up in the middle of this. They get pulled out, they're asked to, step outside, and they get questioned for 45 to about an hour. I wanted to ask you, what's your feeling on that? I mean, I don't know if you heard of the story, but it's all over the news now.
Oh, yeah.
And
No, it is.
Senator Schatz got, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Go
it's
ahead,
really
Lieutenant Governor.
terrible. And then yeah, so it's a really awful situation. And I went to visit Naalehu on the Big Island. Naalehu is it's about hour half to 2 hour drive from Hilo. And if you think my internet connection is bad, there's basically no internet connection going down to Naalehu. And in Alehu, I visited wonderful teachers who came here using the J1 visa. And every one of these individuals, they're doing a great service to our community. And it's terrible that because of this new policy, all these individuals are feeling threatened. And we have to make sure that we provide better safeguards and better communication to ensure that these type of things are um, don't impact individuals' liberties. And can you imagine, not just from the teacher standpoint, the kids who are watching this, how scared they are? So it's just a really awful situation right now.
Yeah.
So
It's
I guess my thinking is, and I wanted to ask you this as well, that a lot of times when it unfolds, both Mel and I being in law enforcement, we kind of know what needs to take place, and that is, it's very few times you have a warrantless arrest. You always have to have a warrant, more or
Hmm.
less, because you're setting the stage of what you're going after, correct? And so a lot of times when you
Hmm.
have a judge sign off on these warrants, they're going by the information
Yeah.
that's provided. So in this particular case, I guess the target that they were going after hadn't been living in that home for about a year, over a year. So how can they go and
Mm.
and I don't have the answers, and I'm pretty sure none of us here today have the answers, but to try and see what would possess anyone to go after this individual, and they didn't have the most updated intel to make sure that the individual was there, thus impacting the
Yeah.
teachers
Yeah.
that were living there. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's the
Yeah.
that's what I kind of wanted to ask you. What is the state's position as far as I know you talked about safeguards. What can we do? Because a lot of times it's going to happen so fast. I mean, is there like a rapid
Yeah.
response line that somebody can get in contact with so can at least get some help to them? Because the last thing that I would like to see is they get impacted so much that they give up and say, we don't want to come back to Hawaii. We rather stay in our
Yeah.
country
Yeah.
and teach there, and we're going to be hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we already have a teacher shortage, and it's not just teachers, right? We have ag workers who might be in similar situation. We have even construction workers. It's so many situations, and our attorney general has been very aggressive in filing injunctions, but injunction is after the fact, and these things are happening on a daily basis. So there has to be some kind of yeah, but I think that's a really good question because, what can we do to make sure that, hey, if something is happening, they need to let us know right away. But if you hear something, let us know right away because we did get some word from some uh, federal law enforcement incident that was happening on the Big Island. So we contacted the AG's office right away. So if you ever hear of situation, just call me because that's the best way as opposed to figuring out, okay, who should we call? Just call me and then so that we can contact the right official and then get our eyes and ears on it right away.
Okay. Thank
thank
you.
thank you. Yeah, Surrey. I guess when you were in the middle of bragging about Kauai's schools and the transition to kindergartners, and weren't able to finish, we had, I guess, a little glitchy thing. But so, was there anything else you wanted to add on how great Kauai is doing as it relates to? And
Yeah,
how about the other schools on Kauai? I think she's asking about the East Side, North Shore. Is it pretty consistent that we're doing
yeah.
well?
Oh, no, absolutely. So Waimea is at 38%, close to 40%, just above average. And there's no schools on the Kauai district that is emerging, which is kind of below average. You have below average, average, and above average. And Waimea is outpacing everyone. Kapa'a on physical development is doing really well. So it's Waimea, Kapa'a, and Kauai High. It's based on complexes. The other thing about preschools, um, for Kauai preschools, there are we have currently Kekaha, Elele, Kilauea, and this year we opened two preschools in Kapa'a. Next year, we are planning to open one in King Kamwali'i in Lihue, and then there will also, in design phase, there will also be preschool opening in Hanalei. So if you think about it, 6 out of the 9 elementary schools on Kauai will have a free preschool program. That is unheard of compared to statewide average. Kauai will basically have more preschools per capita than anywhere else in the state, and I'm just thankful. The fact that preschools are opening, it's because we have cooperation of the school district, we have cooperation of the principals. We don't go into a school unless the principal is willing to take on this responsibility. So it tells you a lot about how terrific your administrators and educators are. I mean, 6 out of 9 elementary schools about to have or already has free preschool. That's amazing. I wish the rest of the state could follow this trend, but having that kind of many preschools uh, in the Kauai area, that will pay dividends for the future.
And that is really good news, because I think oftentimes, and I was going to be honest and frank, that the neighbor islands feel that a lot of the funding, a lot of the opportunities are Honolulu centric, just because that's just the perception. So that is really
Yeah.
good news, and kudos off to our administrators, our DOE administrators here on Kauai, that are making this happen, and appreciate the state for making it happen. Um, we just got done with the legislature, the most recent session, and I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on that. And they start off with thousands of bills, and you're very familiar as a legislator for 24 years, and that dwindles down to a lot less. But maybe you can just share some of the highlights of this last session, uh, and share what we got to look forward to in the next couple fiscal years.
Yeah. So the legislature would, again, every year, the legislature is in a really tough position trying to balance all the needs of statewide interests at the same time, all the different needs in the various district. Uh, I can't say enough about how, for the first time, we have the president and the speaker coming from one island, and that's Kauai. And the fact that both the leader of the House and leader of the Senate come uh, from Kauai is really terrific, because as you recognize, Mel, there's a perception that the legislature is Oahu centric. A lot of the money goes to Oahu, but the fact that we have leadership coming from the smaller island, that ensures that there is equitable distribution, and there will continue to be individuals who understand the needs of the entire island chain and the needs of some of our rural communities, remote communities, and this will be continue to be a message throughout every decision that individual makes. And for me, because now I'm as finance chair, I got to go to many of the communities and think about the needs of the community. But unless you actually went to go visit, Kekaha or Naalehu or many of the communities that are very unique, East Kauai is very different from West Kauai, and very different from North Shore, and very different from various areas. And just from Kauai, it's so diverse and so different. And Kapa'a is not Lihue, and you have to understand that. And it's only people who are coming outside of urban Honolulu will have that idea and have that understanding about the various needs. So I feel very proud that the leadership comes from Kauai, because if you can take care of the needs of one of the smaller islands, then you can kind of have a vision of, okay, what are the needs of some of the other areas too. You got to start from local going out as opposed to top down. The other thing is, as a female leader, I think I was the first female finance chair in the House, and for Nadine to be the first female speaker of the House, that gives me, um, it's just something to be proud of, that you're going to have young girls out there saying, hey, you got the wall of um, photos of men of the House chambers, and now you are going to have a photo of Nadine Nakamura in perpetuity, basically. And when young girls from the various schools come and visit, they're going to see her there, and that's something to be very proud of. The legislature, in addition to all the different issues, and as you said, Mel, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 bills come down to uh, passing about 200 bills at the end. And this year, you had the added pressure of the federal government cutting bunch of stuff. And you're already hearing from nonprofits, you're hearing from organizations that they had to deal with disruptions of things being shut down or not being able to access the portal. And then now things are slow when they try to draw down from federal funds. Those are going through reviews or those are going through audit, and it's causing a lot of chaos and disruption. And so that's adding to, in addition to state needs, that added to a lot of pressure on the legislature. The legislature did a terrific job, though. One of the bills that they passed was they set aside $50 million to help nonprofits and non-government organizations who might be impacted by some of the cuts from the federal government, and they are able to do that even outside of session. So they set this aside so that they can make decision between now until when they come back to session. This is kind of an interesting move because a lot of times, we got to wait until the legislature comes back. And this is saying, no, even if it's during the interim, the president of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, the WAM chairs, the Fin chair will continue to work to make sure that nonprofit organizations or different organizations will not be impacted by some of the cuts. So that was really a terrific move. And they also did a lot of work on housing. To Nadine's credit, and Luke Evslin, who is the housing chair on the House side, and Senate President, they worked to set aside millions of dollars for to build affordable housing. A wildfire continued to be a big issue. The governor pushed for the ensuring that the wildfire settlement gets funded so that it doesn't impact or basically put Maui County in a financial difficulty. And at the same time, there were wildfire mitigation steps that passed. In addition to that, they passed a law dealing with how do you stabilize the insurance market, because after the wildfire, the state of Hawaii is now seen as a wildfire state. So anyone trying to get a mortgage or anyone trying to get any kind of loans, I mean, now, we don't want a situation like what happened in the past where our insurance industry exit the market and we won't be able to get mortgages. So they were able to stabilize all that. There are discussions about whether the legislature would be coming in for a special session, depending on what happens with the federal government, if there will be different type of reductions or impacts. So that may trigger the legislature to come back. So even the situation that you talked about, Charlie, are there more safeguards that we can put? Are there more coordination between law enforcement that we can do? So those are the things that will continue to be discussed. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Charlie, is we heard that USDA had initially put a hiring freeze on all the what's known as the plant and animal quarantine inspection. If those inspectors are hiring of those inspectors are frozen, then it's going to impact our travel. And if they don't continue to hire and they don't continue to support the inspectors continuing their work, then you and I are going to be left with just angry travelers. And what I told USDA is, hey, the decisions are being made in DC, but guess what? The people they're going to complain to is not you. They're going to complain to us, and they're going to complain to the local officials. So they got to do something about it. So if you hear about disruptions in the ag inspection, which is the federal law, right? It's not our law, it's the federal law. So they need to help us through this transition.
Yeah, I think it's
You
a
know,
time.
we have a very, oh,
No, go ahead, Charlie.
we yeah, we have a very close relationship, as you know, with the airports and all the stakeholders at the airports. And what I find interesting is that I guess I don't know if it's my style and the style of everyone else, but we're kind of like one big family down at the airport. So when we see a certain sector of the airport gets affected, it has a rippling effect. And so that's why we try to step in as
Mhm.
soon as possible. But I definitely will keep an ear open. They had been talking about it. You know, the ag inspectors have been sort of like the backup because a lot of times the interior ag inspection, that when you share a
Mhm.
holding room, one goes inner island, the other one goes mainland. They have to cut it off because
Yeah.
direct flights, inner island, they don't stop fruits, right? Mainland routes, they have to stop fruits. And it's through that process sometimes they've been actually getting certain lives over a certain length. And, it makes us wonder, how did it get past TSA in the first time, first point? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a backup system, if you want to look at it that way. That's been working out really well. So definitely, a point well taken that, I'll keep my ears open for all the airports, for all the airports.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I was going to say that this time of uncertainty, and it sounds like the legislature is preparing for a special session to, if needed, to address the potential shortfalls. I know for Kauai, and I'm real happy that Mayor Derek Kawakami did set aside some funding. So for Kauai, and obviously we don't have the volume of federal paid workers in the county as you do in the state, but many
Mhm.
of our local departments, the transportation, police department, fire, emergency management, a lot of our departments have positions that are funded by the federal government, and so there's always some concern that what if the funding uh, sources get cut, but so we have sufficient funds in this year's budget that if that should happen, we will be able to pick up the slack and not have to worry about losing these vital positions, especially in the first responders and law enforcement, and in our transportation. But that leads me to my question, and I don't want to put the lieutenant governor on the spot, but I got to ask you, you know, have we reached a point now where the legislature should be year round versus these sessions? Because as things come up, uh, like
Mhm.
at county councils, we operate year round, so it never stops. But at the Capitol, at the legislature, they have a session a year, and I know there was talk of it this year. I think there was some discussion about going year round. But what's your
Mhm.
personal thoughts, and help me understand it better?
Yeah. I don't really I would caution against a year round only because between January and May, when the legislature is in session, a lot of the directors are at the Capitol, a lot of the department heads are at the Capitol, and they give so much tremendous amount of attention and time and spent at the legislature just trying to sort through the hundreds of bills, and it to some extent it does impact uh, decision making and government function. So if you do a year round, um, we just don't know how that's going to impact kind of the executive function because they put extra attention between January and May. And Mel, when you're here too, you see a lot of the directors and a lot of the department heads just being camped out at the Capitol, and that's not something that you would want to do all year, basically. And you want where decisions are made between January and May, and there's some certainty, and between May and December, they do rulemaking and then come back and make changes. Um, so, I think it's something that we should kind of take a look at, but unless there's going to be different changes. So, for instance, you only do budget in the first year and not in the second year, or change some kind of a system, it does become somewhat disruptive, not just on the legislative side, but on the department side.
Got it. Got it. That's why I ask you, because you've been on both sides, and it's a lot different at that level because you got just so many more departments and so many more people that you got to deal with. And yet, even for us, I mean, when I sit at the council and I see a department head waiting their turn, I think about just that's just wasted time, where that person could be doing his job or her
Yeah.
job, but they're sitting waiting to be called up to the seat. So perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, I did, because I am excited about the broadband expansion. I am. I know that there's been a lot of federal funds. We just came back from our national conference in Washington D.C., and the federal government was, I guess, bragging about the funds, and we had subcommittee meetings with the broadband people, and there's just a ton of money available for rural America. Are we getting our
Mhm.
fair share? And I know Hawaiian Telecom is laying new cable, and we're getting we're getting ahead really really quick. So it sounds like we're in a good place as far as broadband.
Yeah, and then knock on wood, so far broadband and the different things that we're planning in broadband is not some of the things that the federal government is looking at curtailing, at least as far as we know, because I think this impacts uh, uh, not just urban area, but rural America as well. So because they know this is the way of the future and connecting everyone, coming out of COVID, connection was really important. Going back to just bragging about Kauai again, on the broadband side, when there was a survey done and they did kind of an analysis of how well connected the states are, Kauai, there were only 191 locations that were considered not connected. That doesn't mean your broadband is perfect, but when we just look at lines connecting neighborhoods, only 191 were not connected. Compare that to, for instance, Hawaii Island. 5,700 communities were not connected, because, I mean, if you just look at the vast amount of landmass on the Big Island, that just becomes uh, like something that makes sense, right? So because Kauai is, as far as the lines and connections, about 190 locations are not connected. We can really concentrate that and see, okay, let's try connect all these areas together. In addition to that, we have to work on not just the connection, we have to work on speed. So it's not just about having um, undersea cable. It's not just about having lines to the communities, but it's ensuring that we have high speed, reliable internet.
Kind of like the capital.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
uh,
need a lot more boost of, yeah,
I just
broadband.
I don't know, I don't know if any of the IT people from the state is watching this, but I'm sure they're like, oh my God, we're gonna get it tomorrow. We are gonna get it tomorrow. So so
I don't know how many times my face was during this thing, though.
No, it's actually it's going all right. It's going all right. Um, give us an outlook. I mean, we only got about 10 minutes left, but what can we as Hawaii residents be excited about going forward? Especially after the session. I know the governor is super excited about the green fee. He finally got it passed.
Yeah,
So the tourists are going to be,
yeah, yeah.
that came with a lot of backlash from the visitor industry, which is an industry that we rely on, but that industry does create impacts for our state. But um, so what are some of the real big positives that we can look forward to in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think this is a really pivotal time for the state of Hawaii. There are opportunities for us. Kauai is doing such great things as far as ag is concerned. I'm a huge believer in supporting sustainable ag, and we have to really think about what is it going to be for us to feed our people, feed our community. One of the things I wanted to talk about is, as we're wrapping up, is we led a delegation to meet with USDA, and even if some of the policies coming out of this the federal administration is controversial, one of the things we want to do is continue to harp on them and talk to them about, if your policies are trying to take care of uh, American made products or American grown products, we want to stress that we have a lot of locally grown products. So let us be the ones to do import replacement, as opposed to you importing limes or importing coffee or importing macadamia nuts from around the world. We have right here in the state of Hawaii a lot of products that you're getting from all kinds of South America or other countries, and you should rely on us if you are true to what you're saying about supporting US made, US grown things. Then let's see if, basically put your money where your mouth is and support our ag industry, because we can be that participant in doing import replacement. So that's where we want to really focus on, so that we can support our ag workers, support our people. The more that we do that, it's we as a state can be self-reliant and self-sufficient, and that's going to help a lot of folks. The other thing is, in the housing market, and Kauai is doing terrific things, statewide. I think there are big opportunities for us to continue on that efforts. Luke Evslin has done a terrific job as housing chair, working with Nadine, working with the press. I think, they're taking very aggressive and innovative approach. We feel like, we're working really well with our county partners, and that's where you come in, Mel. We have to pool our resources together, and we have to work together, because our resources are finite and our tax base is finite. So the more that we can pool our ideas together, and thanks for your continued efforts in supporting early learning opportunities. I know, both you and many others have been terrific partners in trying to provide these access. Early learning is not just about getting kids ready for kindergarten, but it's allowing families to have their kids in a safe environment, safe and nurturing and learning environment, while they can go to work and make money for their family, to support their family. So I think all those things, we do it together, then it just helps people um, continue to thrive. For the first time, this is something that I just recently learned from our staff. For the first time in many, many years, the out migration has slowed down. So for the so many years, going into COVID and following COVID, we lost our working folks to the continent, and a lot of people moved away. For the first time this year, I think the out migration has slowed, and so that's a positive outlook, that people are feeling better about living in the state of Hawaii. They feel supported, and they feel that, hey, this is where we want our kids, our grandkids to grow up. And so I'm really happy about that statistics.
Yeah, that's always a concern. If we don't slow that out migration down and or stop it at some point, I mean, there'd be no more local people
Hmm.
left, and it's always a concern. It's something that I think about. My two kids live on the mainland. My daughter lives in Texas, so I got my nice hat. But it's sad. It's sad when, I saw some people today, and they
Yeah.
were we and she was telling me how they have her and her husband has 22 grandchildren and great grandchildren. They're an older couple, and they're all here on Kauai, and I just am so jealous about that. But
Wow.
we just gotta work towards keeping our people home, keeping our people home. Charlie, any burning
Hmm.
questions for the
Yeah,
lieutenant governor?
absolutely.
No, it's I'm just curious, other than to think what kind of rapid plan that we have in store, given the uncertainty from I shouldn't say day to day, but hour to hour with the present administration,
Yeah.
and what type of
Yeah.
what kind of audibles they'll be calling that will be affecting our state. Because I'm looking at our our dependence on shipping and air. We don't have rail. So when
Yeah.
prices start going, just for the operational side, that's not even including the tariffs. What kind of prices would we be looking at just to bring something in? Because
Hmm.
operationally, there's so many fees tacked one on top of the other. And so unless you have the finite scope, as you may call it, to look at what that bill of lading says, right, pertaining to your product that you may be shipping just from inner island. Looking at all these fees, sometimes you kind of scratch your head and say, "Oh, where did these rates come from?" Do you have any thoughts on that,
Hmm.
Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, that's why I think the more that we can be self sufficient and um, lessen our dependence on imported goods, the better that we reduce our transportation costs, we reduce our energy costs, and it's about um, what can we do to maximize. So, for instance, if Kauai is ag, can we count on the Big Island for our ranching and cattle? Can we count on Maui for other things? And then, we got to maximize and think of how we can continue to be self sufficient and just rely on each other as opposed to nationally or internationally. But definitely, as we move forward, it's a bigger policy question. Hey, we got to put all our heads together and make sure that, we work towards self sufficiency.
Yes, a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. I know. I don't want to. Do not want to keep you longer than we had you. I just have to ask: Is according to ChatGPT, you have two dogs, Musubi and Momo. Is that accurate?
Yes, correct.
I can tell you, man. ChatGPT is a wow, awesome.
I know, that's amazing, isn't it? They love me more than my son.
Let's see. One son. Yeah, they have one son and two dogs. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
ChatGPT. Well,
Yeah, I
Lieutenant
start
Governor,
with one son, but then I
I want to just post this comment. Jimmy Trujillo, he's a radio host here at KKCR Public Community Radio Station, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on because nobody really knows your personal life or your uh, the fun side of Sylvia Luke, and that's what I wanted to kind of showcase tonight. Just that you're a human being and that you care for our state, uh, and I love that you just your motivation to help our keiki is just so solid and so many other things. I don't have a doubt that one day, we're gonna remove the LG from your name and you'll be Governor Luke. I cannot wait for that day. I think that'll come up. I look forward to the leadership. But as Jimmy said, you're impressive on so many levels, and I hope a lot of the people got to see that tonight. And for those that are watching on the replay, we just appreciate you so much for spending some time with us tonight. Charlie, any
No, thank
closing?
you for having me on.
Charlie, any closing thoughts, real quick, before we head off?
Well, I do want to say again, thank you so much to Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke for joining us tonight. It was truly a pleasure. But again, I get to see her all the time when she passes through Lihue Airport, and of course at some other events where, I kind of wonder sometimes that, am I working or am I not working? Because she is truly a Hawaii's treasure, so we have to make sure nothing happens to her. So we're always there's always a group of us around her to make sure that nothing happens. And thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lieutenant Governor.
No, I appreciate the two of you.
Any closing comments before we sign off, Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, Mel and I have a newfound love and appreciation for each other. A lot of times in the legislature, as you said, we were on different sides and different issues. But now that I am here, I think every time I see Mel, I just love him a lot, and appreciate everything that you folks do. And of course, Charlie, that's the first person a lot of times I see as soon as I get off the airplane. So I always love visiting Kauai and appreciate all the great work that the two of you do. So thanks for keeping Kauai, just working, and thanks for keeping them safe, and thanks for working so hard for our people right there.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. Again,
you.
appreciate your time. Send our love to Momo and Musubi, and of course your family at home. We appreciate you. Stay safe, and we will see you on the road. Take care. God bless everybody. Until next time. Hui ho.
That was
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye. See you
We'll talk
next time.
soon. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. And I got your itinerary as well.